title of this lecture is Hypnosis. The lecturer is Peter Goodwin, and what I want to cover this evening is the structure and the mechanics of hypnotism. And perhaps before we go into the structure and mechanics, it would be helpful if we talk a little about the history. Now, the Western history of hypnosis goes back something like 250 years. But the real history of hypnosis goes back something like 5,000 years. And we find amongst the ancient Chinese writings, and we also find amongst the ancient writings of India, 5,000 ago we find the first mention of hypnosis. And we also find the mention of hypnosis 3,000 years later. We're still talking about 2000 BC, somewhere around about that. We find the mention of it in Egyptian history and also in Greek history. And we find that the most earliest reports of hypnosis were always connected with extrasensory perception. And it's really only recently that hypnosis in the last 50 years has been associated with extrasensory perception in the Western world. But 5,000 years ago in China, hypnosis was associated with extrasensory perception. And there were at that time, 5,000 years ago, and also in India, there were professional, I think I can call them families of psychics, where grandma was a psychic, and the son or the daughter was a psychic, and her daughter, the granddaughter, was also a psychic. So you had these three-generation families who were the oracles, they were the high priests, they were the psychics, they were the mediums of the day. And they always used to deliver their pronouncements, or what we now call precognitions, looking into the future, or medical diagnosis. All these things were delivered whilst in a hypnotic trance. And this is the first reference we find to hypnosis. But these people used to put themselves into a trance. They used to chant, or they used to hypnotise themselves, to go unconscious, they used to ride about on the ground, and they used to deliver premonitions, medical diagnosis, and places where people were at a distance, and in order to find objects. You could hand them an object and they would be able to tell you something about the person, but they were always in trance. And certainly we find in 1850 in the States, when the first mediums were beginning to develop and spiritualism became the age, we also found then a reassociation of hypnotism with psychic phenomena. So 5,000 years ago, hypnotism was associated with psychic phenomena, and 150 years ago, hypnotism again became associated with psychic phenomena in America, and you had the thing called the trance, or the person called the trance medium, somebody who went into a trance before they became mediumistic. Whereas about 250 years ago, in the West, in Austria and in Germany, in fact all throughout Europe, you had the first use of hypnotism for medical reasons. And that was in fact a chap called Charcot, C-H-A-R-C-O-T, I think the spelling of the name was, and then he was followed on by a chap called Mesmer. And Mesmer found that he could put people into a trance, as opposed to people putting themselves in a trance. He found he could put other people into a trance, and he called this mesmerism. And it all used to be done with magnets. He used to go and in front of his subject and wave magnets over them, cause them to go into a hypnotic trance. And what they found was that people who were in a hypnotic trance ceased to be hysterical. So he found that if people were hysterical, he could put them into a trance and stop the hysteria. The only trouble was that when they woke up again and they came out of the trance, they were hysterical once more. But at least he found some kind of a temporary cure for hysteria. And he toured the courts of Europe, the various kings and queens. It was quite the thing to have Mesmer to come and see him. He'd bring his magnets, and he'd induce what was known as animal magnetism. And people weren't too certain about it until Freud came along. And Freud, in his early days, he used to use hypnosis in his practice. But he discarded that in favour of psychoanalysis, because he found the same thing, that putting people into trances didn't really cure them of anything. All it produced was a relief from the illness that they were suffering from. And his method of hypnosis was to visually confront the person, look into their eyes and produce this kind of a stare, which was one method of hypnotising people, by no means the only method of hypnotising people. So then you come up to Western civilization again. You come up to around about 1930s, when hypnosis had quite a start in this country, and people were using hypnosis for all sorts of medical cures. And the trouble with hypnosis is it is limited in what it can do. It's spectacular, And it certainly shows the workings of the mind. It shows the division between the subconscious and the conscious. But it's not a long-term cure for anything. It's good to induce hypnosis to relax people. It's very good for stopping smoking. It's very good for weight reducing. You can do all sorts of spectacular demonstrations with it. But for the long-term process, hypnosis is not the answer. Eventually you have to find out what's there, whereas hypnotism basically is putting things into people's minds. But the problem with most people is getting out already what they've got in. So let's look at hypnosis and exactly how it takes place. Because we do know the mechanics of hypnosis and we do know how it takes place. What you're doing with hypnotism, to start with, you're closing down the person's conscious mind. And you close down their conscious mind by fixing their attention. And you can fix the attention of somebody through any of the five senses. You can hypnotise people by touch. You can hypnotise people by smell. You can hypnotise people by sight. You can hypnotise people through noise. In fact, you can hypnotise people through any of the five known senses. And there's also a thing called telepathic hypnosis, which is a separate subject, and I'll write it down here in order that I can come back to it. But basically, the hypnotist, the person who's performing the act of hypnosis, and the person who's hypnotised have to be in contact. So the first thing you do is to fix the person's attention, and you do that through one of the five senses. And by fixing the person's attention, you can close down the conscious mind, shut down the conscious mind. You then have available the subconscious mind. And with a person who has their conscious mind shut down, you can insert things into their subconscious mind so that when they wake up, they don't know they're there. So you can actually tell people to do things after they've woken up, and you can tell them to forget the experience, they've been hypnotised, and when they wake up, they will carry out those commands to the letter because they've been put in their subconscious mind, and then you shut them off, and they're no longer available to their conscious mind. And that basically is what happens in hypnosis. The conscious mind is shut down, the subconscious is open, and you can insert various commands. The hypnotist can ask them to do things when they wake up, and this is what is known as the post-hypnotic, which is a demonstration of a person doing something under the control of another. So, there are three stages of hypnotism. There is the first stage of hypnotism, which I can most readily identify with somebody looking at a television set. Somebody looking at a television set is in the first stage of hypnosis. So you can see what a powerful influence on our lives the television set is, and what a powerful tool for brainwashing. Whoever controls the television network controls your mind, whether you like it or not. Because everyone looking at the television set is in the first stage of hypnosis. The second stage of hypnosis is when a person is lightly asleep, in a light hypnotic trance, where they know fully what's going on, fully what's being said. They can wake themselves up at any time they want. The second stage of hypnosis is useful for weight reducing, it is useful for stopping smoking, it is useful for nail biting, it is useful for bedwetting, and some of those simple procedures, but hypnosis is not so good when it comes to sorting people's personalities out. It's a far too wild a tool for sorting personalities out. But it's very useful for cutting things out of people's lives temporarily, like nail biting. And the third stage of trance, which is the tertiary stage of trance, and that is the most spectacular stage. In the tertiary stage of trance, people can make their bodies rigid and can increase their strength about threefold. Somebody who's in the tertiary stage of trance can carry out 3 times the effect where it comes to using their strength. So somebody that could normally, say, only lift a weight, say, of 200 pounds, without being hypnotised, could lift a weight of 600 pounds. And some of you will see a demonstration of putting somebody out between 2 chairs, and you can sit on top of somebody with just their head and their feet supporting on the chair. You can probably put about 20 stone on them. Yet if you try to put your own head on the chair and your own feet on the chair, you have great difficulty in keeping your own weight up, let alone 20 stone. You can, when the person who's in the tertiary stage of trance, you can stop their blood flow. You can stick needles into people and tell them they won't bleed and the blood won't come out the skin. You can slow down their heartbeat. You can speed up their heartbeat. You can put somebody into a trance and you can put them out on a freezing cold night. You can slow their metabolic rate down to such an extent that the next morning they'll still be alive. Whereas you, alongside that person, without being in a trance, would be dead. You would be frozen to death. So you can induce a state of hibernation into people. You can hypnotise somebody to the extent where they could go to an undertaker or be described dead by a doctor, and in fact 3 or 4 days later they could be woken up with post-hypnotic suggestion and they could have been buried alive. So you can induce a state in a person where, for all extent, they are dead. And undoubtedly, the saints, the so-called Christian saints, if you like, throughout the ages, under torture and under duress, certainly had the ability to hypnotise themselves. So it's debatable whether they were brave, because somebody who could do that to themselves wouldn't actually feel the pain. So whether they were brave or whether they were very good at hypnotising themselves is debatable. But certainly all normal pain could be eliminated. You could conduct operations on people who are in the tertiary stage of trance. Now we come to the big question that most people ask me when I talk about hypnosis. Can somebody be asked to do something against their will if they've been hypnotised? And most of the books on this subject tell you that a person can't be made to do something if they've been hypnotised. In fact, this is not so at all, because you can, in fact, people who are being hypnotised, their intelligence is greatly reduced, because you're dealing with the subconscious mind, and the intelligence of the subconscious mind is very low. And the way you get somebody, if this was your aim, to do something they didn't want to do under hypnosis, was to give them a moral purpose for doing it. So, if you had an instance where you wanted somebody to kill somebody, you wouldn't say to them, you will kill this person, because they wouldn't normally do it, unless they were criminals, unless they were already murderers. And there are very few people who can set out and commit cold-blooded murder. So what you would tell this person is that when they woke up, they would see this person, and that this person was a Russian agent who was carrying with him some deadly poison that was going to release into the underground up in London, and this person to be killed in the name of the freedom of the West and all the rest of it. And you could therefore induce in this person a perfectly moral and righteous reason for killing this person. And when they woke up, they'd go out and kill, even though they wouldn't normally do it. So, using this reverse technique, you can get anyone to do anything, provided they had consented to the act of hypnotism in the first place. So there's a great degree of trust bestowed on those who would enter into the field of hypnotism. Now, our problem is not that we need more hypnotising, our problem is we need dehypnotising. Because we've all got this subconscious mind, you'll find that all of us have got things in our subconscious mind that we don't know about, and which we are the effect of. We tend to go around doing things that we think are our decisions. In fact, they're the decisions of people who probably we're no longer in contact with, like parents and schoolmasters. So to a large extent, our moral values can be induced by brainwashing techniques, and all brainwashing is a form of hypnotism, for fact. So the problem with man is not putting more things into his subconscious mind, but getting things out that are already there. You see, somebody who's been hypnotised, you can in fact tell them that when they wake up they can't move their limbs. You can wake them up and they can't move their limbs. So you can see, in fact, it's a very powerful force. So you can see that the hypnotism is a powerful force. So what is its usage? Well, it can be used in dentistry. It's quite useful for extraction of teeth. In fact, I've got one client who's coming here during the day just for that. Her problem is not getting to the have her teeth out. Her problem is getting herself to the hospital, because she gets to the gates of the hospital and she runs. So she's coming here for some life hypnosis in order that she can get to the hospital, in order that they can give her the drug in order to put her out to take her teeth out. So it has got some use. To be perfectly honest, it's probably a few things that hypnotism can do that you can't do these days with a light anaesthetic. So these ideas of having people hypnotised and having their legs off, that might have been all right in Nelson's day, or might be okay in places like China if they haven't got an anaesthetic. If they've got an anaesthetic, you're probably better off to use that, because the advantages of the anaesthetic is it works everybody, or virtually everybody, whereas hypnotism is kind of the sort of thing that will work with some people, but not with all people. You see, everyone will go into the first stage of trance, and everyone will go into the second stage of trance, and that's enough to stop people smoking, and that's enough to cause people to lose £4 a week for weight reducing and this type of thing, but it's certainly not enough to saw somebody's leg off. So you'd have to have somebody who went into the third stage of trance in order to do these spectacular operations that you've seen on television, or maybe you've seen on films from time to time. But it has got limited use, but it's a bit old-fashioned, it's a bit out of date. It's quite interesting if you want to demonstrate the regression into past lives. In fact, we gave a lecture on reincarnation, and we gave a demonstration of this regression with the help of Nina. It's useful from that point of view. But there again, you can run these past life experiences, or you can experience them without having to be hypnotised. Some mediums, or people who prefer mediumistic phenomena, they like to be hypnotised sometimes. There again, I've not come across anybody who cannot be induced to perform extrasensory phenomena without hypnosis. Now, I did, however, say I'll tell you something about telepathic hypnosis. And that is the hypnotism of somebody at a distance. And a lot of work was done by a chap called Vasilev in Russia over the last 40 years. Vasilev was a great parapsychologist. He escaped the purges of Stalin because at one time in Russia, parapsychology was punishable by imprisonment. So just as witchcraft was punishable by the church, Stalin or Stalin's advisors, just after the revolution, declared anything to do with parapsychology, any research, was punishable by being in prison. However, Russia eventually came out of this when they could see the uses of parapsychology for military research, spying on your enemies and this type of thing, so they declared that it was legal, provided it was called biophysics. And the difference between biophysics and parapsychology is that parapsychology supposed there was some kind of survival after death, at least the early parapsychologists supposed that. This was banned in Russia because they were communists and there was no God and there was no life after death. But they were able to accept that there was perhaps some kind of other force in nature which acted purely on the physical level, which they called the biophysical force. On that basis, they got round their rather harsh views of anything which involved anything to do with religion or even divulged from religion. So parapsychology did in fact get off the ground in Russia and is very active today with a big budget and there's a lot of research being done. But anyway, Vasilev found that people that had been hypnotized once by him, he could send to 1,000 miles to the other side of Russia. And at a certain time, by concentrating on this person and sending the message telepathically, he could induce a state of trance into this person, causing him to go into a trance and carry out commands which he could send because he sent the waves or sent the images by thought, by telepathy. And this was telepathic hypnosis, and I have in fact practiced this, and I have hypnotized somebody and sent them away to another spot, and at a certain time put them into a trance and got them to carry out a post-hypnotic. So you can use telepathic hypnosis, but you have to hypnotize the person first. You can't just by thinking of the person put them into a trance, or at least I've never known this being done, unless you have put them into a trance in the first place and agreed with them that in future they're going to put them into trance again by using telepathy. So telepathic hypnosis involves the putting of a person into trance in the first place, and certainly you have to put them into the third stage of trance. All the dramatic films that you've seen, all the dramatic television programs that you've seen, all the acts on the stage have always involved putting people into a tertiary stage of trance. But what the stage hypnotist doesn't tell him is he's always got an assistant, somebody who is a tertiary subject. And when he selects his people from the audience, he doesn't pick anybody from the audience. Oh no, because he would have too high a rate of failure for the spectacle. He gets people to put their hands on their head. He tells them they can't take their hands away. And a certain number of people in that audience won't be able to do this. If you all like to practice, if you all like to put your hands on your head, and press down very lightly, put your hands well together so that they are interlocking, press them in, and put them on your head and press. Fine. Got them ready? Got them ready? Right. Now press down lightly on your head and listen to my voice. And I'm going to tell you that you cannot take your hands away from your head. You cannot take your hands away from your head. Now I want you to try and do that. Right, well we've got one here who can't do it. Right, you can now do it. You can now remove your hands. Right? Now, in an audience of 500 or 600 people in the downstairs of the stalls, you'll find that about 1 in 20, got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, I'll be lucky to have one here, but 1 out of 20, 2 out of 40, 3 out of 60 were not, as Nina wasn't able to, take her hands away from her head. And of course, all he does is send his assistant down and say, right, you come up. And they would come up. They would beckon to his command. He would bring them up on the stage, and he'd line them up, and go bang, 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 bang. And they're all going to the tertiary stage of trance, one after the other, one after the other. Because of the slightly hysterical atmosphere in the theatre, that they can't move their hands. So those are the people he will demonstrate, those are the people he will regress back into their childhood and do all this paraphernalia. And it's because of all that, in 1952, a law was passed in this country, which is 1952 Act of Hypnotism, which says that you're not allowed to carry out acts of hypnosis in places of public entertainment without a licence from the local authority. I don't suggest you try and get one because they probably won't know what process to go through. But the local authority has to grant a licence if you're going to carry out acts of hypnotism on the premises for public entertainment. It doesn't stop what I do here because it's scientific. It doesn't stop a lot of things, but it stops people hypnotising people on stage. Because what they found was that after these shows, people would go out of the theatre or out of the cinemas still in the state of light hypnosis, not properly woken up. Because you can't expect a hypnotist on the stage to wake everybody up. We've got a show to put on. And some of these people, in fact, went out and had accidents in their cars. So it's very important, anything to do with hypnosis, that you wake people up properly. And those of you who have anything to do with me will know that I always wake up the subjects that they're fully awake. It's not always easy to tell if they're fully awake. There's a test that you have to do. So if you want to go away from here and practice it, remember that it's not that difficult to get somebody into hypnotic trance. Downside, more complicated to wake them up and make sure that they are fully awake and to run out anything that's occurred. And some people, you have to tell them to remember everything. Some people it's not necessary. But as a rule, tell people to remember everything and you won't have any problems. And of course, post-hypnotics, people carrying out things after they've been hypnotised, you might tell somebody that exactly 2 days from now at 2 o'clock they'll carry out a certain act. At that time they will freeze, and the interesting thing is, and where we can demonstrate how the mind functions, is that people will carry these things out to the letter and then not realise that they've done it. And if you ask a person who's been hypnotised and carrying out a post-hypnotic why they would done it, they will always rationalise it and they will always give you a perfect excuse, a perfectly rational excuse. And those of you who have heard the lecture on the subconscious mind will know that the subconscious feeds into the conscious mind a command as if it is a fact, as if it is a truth. And what the conscious mind does is to rationalise. And all of us are doing this all the time, throughout the day, because all of this are things in our subconscious mind which are rationalising all the time. And that is why we think sometimes that we're carrying things out because we want to do them. In fact, we're carrying things out because we've been hypnotised in the past, by parents, by schoolmasters, by all sorts of liberal brainwashing type techniques. We've been hypnotised into doing things that we think is ourselves, and in fact is somebody else. And the whole problem with extrasensory perception is that we've all been hypnotised to believe we can't do it over the last 150 years. In fact, if you just realise that you can do these things, you have a lot less trouble. Thank you very much.